Okay, I asked you guys if you wanted to see me make this dress for a museum event here in Marietta, Georgia, and you guys said yes. I saw this event on Facebook. It is at the Marietta Gone with the Wind Museum. It will be held on June 8th, and it is the event that is titled All About Costumes. This museum houses an arguably incredible collection of Gone with the Wind paraphernalia. My mom and I are huge Vivian Leigh fans, and when a friend of ours told us about this museum, we knew we had to go and check it out. I did do a video on it, and it's in this playlist series if you guys want to see a little recap of that visit. And when we went, I bought the sewing pattern because my mom and I love this dress, and my mom was like, well, maybe you should make it one day. I bought the pattern, didn't think much about it. And now this museum is hosting an event talking about the costumes in the film. They're also going to unveil 2 new costumes for the museum, and Megan Tatum Miller is going to talk about the PG of Williamsburg patterns. And I have never made a pattern of theirs before, so I thought this is the perfect time to do that. And y'all seem super excited about this journey too. I found a blog last night of somebody else who has made this dress before, and I was reading through it and I was like, oh boy, I might have bit off way more than I can chew. But it's okay, because we're gonna make it happen with movie magic. So first things first is figuring out how I can cut corners to cut down cost. Because this dress, the pattern calls for 20 yards of fabric. And literally all of that fabric is in the skirt. Walter Plunkett, the costume designer, did a really good job putting a lot of historical accuracy into these costumes. So of course, when we see a skirt like this, at the height of the large skirt period of the Victorian era, we know that we're gonna have to have some sort of caged understructure. Something has to lift these skirts up. This is a beautiful example of a hoop skirt from 1862, technically a year after we see Scarlett in that dress. And it showcases how the hoop skirt held up the volume of the actual garment without weighing the skirt down with lots of petticoats. It was in 1856 that the cage crinoline was invented, perfected, and it allowed skirts to get absolutely massive. Women's fashions of this time frame within the Victorian era showcased extreme opulence. Skirt volume was absolutely outrageous, not to mention the amount of trim and ribbons and handwork that went into making these garments. I do particularly love this picture because I love finding anything that's like an extant example that looks similarly to either a costume that was made or something that is in a museum, and that white and green dress just makes me think of this barbecue dress. Walter Plunkett wanted to showcase how high fashion and also how naive and tone deaf Scarlett is. And the absolute width of this skirt just showcases excess and frivolity. And on top of that, this dress is supposed to be an evening gown. So her wearing it at the barbecue is absolutely inappropriate. And I will talk about the color green in his use of costume design, but he always utilized the color green whenever she was in a scene where she was envious. And the ruffles make her look young because in this scene, she is a young, jealous, naive woman. So while I could pop off, do my research, buy a pattern or 2, and get all of the trim and materials to make my own hoop skirt, I just do not have the time or the money to do that. This can get so expensive. And then you have to think about it in the context of the reality of what it would cost somebody to make something like this back in that time period. And while this may look like cutting corners, in the film industry, in the costuming world, I find this to be absolutely acceptable. If you can find something online that can cut you down on time and money, go for it. Costuming, and especially cosplay and historical costuming, it should be fun. And if you have to cut corners like this, I call it innovation. And in being innovative, I purchased this massive hoop skirt, and I did a tulle ivory underlayer that will help give volume to the skirt. Did I mention that this pattern takes 20 yards of fabric? So as soon as these come in, we're going to do a little try on, and we're going to talk about whether or not it will give us a good amount of shape for this skirt. If you don't want to go the Amazon route like me, the PG of Williamsburg also sells a compendium pattern, which is the hoop skirt for this. I could have bought this, but like I said, I just don't have the time to make it myself. However, I probably will be purchasing this in the future because it seems like a good thing to have in your collection. And if you're like me and you just needed a quick fix, I added some of these over on my Amazon storefront. It's in my costume essentials because I never think that it's a bad idea to have good hoop skirts, good petticoats, quick and easy to get. As soon as these come in, we will do a try on, and then we're going to talk about making the corset next.